Portrait of Sir John Herschel by Julia Margaret Cameron. Look at this face. Weathered, intense, almost otherworldly. The wild white hair, the deeply furrowed brow, the eyes that seem to carry the weight of decades of thought. This is not just a photograph. This is a statement about what photography could be, and a testament to one of the most remarkable women in the history of the medium. The photograph is titled Portrait of Sir John Herschel, and it was taken in 1867 by Julia Margaret Cameron. Sir John Herschel himself was a titan of Victorian science, an astronomer, mathematician, chemist, and one of the pioneers of photography. He was the man who coined the very terms negative and positive in the photographic sense, and who introduced Cameron to the art form she would come to define. Their friendship was long and deep, which gives this image a special intimacy. Cameron was not photographing a subject. She was photographing a friend. But to understand why this portrait is so extraordinary, we need to understand who Julia Margaret Cameron was. She was born in Calcutta in 1815, the fourth of 7 sisters in a prominent Anglo-French family. She spent her early life moving between India, Europe, and England, absorbing culture, literature, and the intellectual life of the Victorian upper class. She was known for her forceful personality, her warmth, and her intense enthusiasm for everything she did. She married Charles Hay Cameron, a jurist and philosopher, and the couple eventually settled on the Isle of Wight, where they became neighbors with Alfred Lord Tennyson, the poet laureate of England. Their home became a kind of informal salon for the great minds of the era. Cameron did not pick up a camera until she was 48 years old. In 1863, her daughter and son-in-law gave her a camera as a gift. Most people in that situation would have taken pleasant family snapshots. Cameron turned it into an obsession, a vocation, and an art form, practically overnight. She converted a chicken coop into a darkroom and a glass house into a studio. She experimented relentlessly, often working with large glass plates coated in wet collodion, a messy, unpredictable, physically demanding process. She had no formal training whatsoever, and yet, within just a few years, she was producing portraits that stood apart from everything else being made at the time. The photographic establishment was not always kind to her. Critics frequently complained about the soft focus, the visible dust marks, the scratches on her plates, the technical imperfections. Cameron's response was essentially, "These are not mistakes. This is intention." She believed that photography should aspire to the condition of painting, of art, that it should capture not just likeness, but soul. And nowhere is that belief more powerfully demonstrated than in this portrait of Sir John Herschel. Look again at the image. Herschel was 75 years old when Cameron photographed him, and she allegedly asked him to wash his hair before the sitting so that it would be wild and unkempt when it dried, giving him the electric, almost prophetic appearance you see here. The result is extraordinary. He looks less like a distinguished Victorian gentleman and more like an Old Testament figure, a man who has seen things ordinary mortals cannot comprehend. The lighting is masterful. A single, soft, directional source, probably a north-facing window, sculpts his face with deep shadows that carve out every wrinkle, every line of experience. The background fades into a rich, velvety darkness that isolates the subject completely. There is nothing to distract you, just the face, the hair, and those eyes. And those eyes. Cameron's great gift was her ability to make her subjects look genuinely present, genuinely alive, in a medium that so often produced stiff, formal, slightly glazed results. Sitters in Victorian photography were usually clamped into head braces, told to hold rigid poses for long exposures, and the results showed it. Cameron worked differently. She engaged her subjects emotionally, sometimes waiting patiently for the right moment of expression, sometimes directing them with the energy and conviction of a theatrical director. The soft focus that critics mocked was, in fact, a deliberate technique that lent her images a painterly quality, something closer to Rembrandt than to the sharp, clinical precision of contemporary scientific photography. She admired the pre-Raphaelite painters deeply, and that influence is visible throughout her work. The dramatic chiaroscuro, the psychological intensity, the sense that you are looking not at a recorded moment, but at a crafted vision. This portrait of Herschel is often cited as one of the greatest photographs of the 19th century, and it is easy to see why. It has the gravitas of a Rembrandt, the emotional directness of a Van Gogh self-portrait, and something else entirely that belongs to photography alone. The knowledge that this man actually sat in that room, in that light, and looked into that lens. Cameron continued photographing until late in her life. In 1875, she and her husband moved to Ceylon, modern-day Sri Lanka, where Charles had coffee plantations. She kept photographing there, though her output slowed. She died in Ceylon in 1879, at the age of 63, reportedly uttering the single word "beautiful" as her last. Her work was somewhat forgotten after her death, as photographic fashions moved toward sharper, more technically precise imagery. It was not until the 20th century that her reputation was fully restored, championed by figures like Virginia Woolf, who was actually Cameron's great-niece and who co-wrote a playful biography of her. Today, Cameron is recognized as one of the founders of art photography, a visionary who understood, before almost anyone else, that the camera was not merely a recording device, but an instrument of interpretation. This portrait of Sir John Herschel is more than a historical document. It is a meditation on age, intelligence, and the passage of time. It is the work of a woman who came to her art late, pursued it with ferocious commitment, and left behind images that still stop us in our tracks more than 150 years later. Next time you look at a photograph and feel something, not just recognition, but something deeper, something that makes you pause, remember Julia Margaret Cameron. She was probably one of the first people who understood that that feeling was possible and who knew exactly how to create it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this analysis, please subscribe and leave a comment below. What other works would you like to explore? See you next time.